Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, this is Megneous, and welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Dinosaurs. So, the first thing on today's list of things to do, ta-da! We have an egg of a pterosaur. So, and of course, as soon as I start recording, someone tries to contact me. You guys need to remember, I'm very busy. Stop trying to contact me while I'm recording. But yes, our very first piece of business is to go ahead and hatch this pterosaur. Yes, I do. I do have arrows. Very good, very good. I have accidentally prepared myself. Hello. Accidentally prepared myself for this moment. And I even have signs. I amaze myself with how ready I am for this moment. Alright, so, there's our egg, there's our pterosaur. This is going to be our new pterosaur. I guess I'm going to have to go fishing and feed it by hand. That's probably going to be tiresome. Let's go ahead and put down the sign for now. Assuming that this thing hatches and doesn't immediately die like so many pterosaurs do, I'm gonna need you guys to give me a name. There have been a few people giving names for a new pterosaur already, but I'm afraid that I would like for the pterosaur to be born first, and then we'll take suggestions for names after. So go ahead and let me know below in the comments, assuming that this poor little creature survives till the end of the episode. Let me know what you would like to name that creature. Alright, so today we're going to, hopefully, assuming that the glass is being made under my home, we are going to do more of Poseidon's little viewing glass cage thingamabob. Go mosasaur diving, probably on easy or friendly or whatever that difficult setting is, so that Poseidon doesn't eat our faces. And we also have lots of wonderful news to talk about. Of course, recently there's not been much dinosaur news, which is very depressing, but you know, that's generally how dinosaur news goes. This has happened a few episodes. But I did recently watch a documentary on fossil preservation and fossil excavation. So I thought, you know, that's not dinosaurs. The things that they were doing were actually the earliest descendants of the mammal lineage, where the first rodent-like, mammal-like reptiles were evolving into sort of mice, essentially. And then when those mice-like creatures, mouse-like creatures were evolving into the first primates. So, I think actually it was an episode of Nova, so good times, interesting stuff. But anyway, they were talking about excavation methods and preservation methods for how to work with such tiny bones, because obviously mouse-like creatures and mammal-like reptiles and reptile-like mammals, etc., when they're that small, it's difficult to find complete skeletons. You can accidentally destroy bones, and actually the way that they get stone off of fossils is sort of dangerous to the fossils themselves, so I thought I would tell you about that, since that's tangentially related to dinosaurs, I suppose. If we found very, very tiny dinosaurs, which we have before, probably similar techniques are used. But anyway, the very cool technique that... Hello, dino egg. You have hatched. And I would like you to no longer follow me because you are well known to glitch everywhere. Alright, you seem to be a fairly calm pterosaur, so I'm just gonna let you chill. Hopefully you don't freak out. Yeah, you seem to be okay. Stay. Stay, yet unnamed pterosaur. Very nice, very nice. Alright, so, moving along. Yes, the technique for removing those tiny bones from, essentially, limestone. They were talking about limestone specifically, and when I say limestone, some of you probably already know this technique, but I thought it was very interesting that I've seen people do this before, like, turtle fossils and turtle bones. I've seen people basically take stone that they think fossils are in, and then just dump it in what is essentially acid, because if fossils are in limestone and you drop it in acid, then the acid eats away at the limestone, and eventually what you have left are fossils. However, when fossils are very small and fragile, it's sort of dangerous. The fossils can dissolve as well, so what they did in this documentary, which I had seen before, yes, our glass is done, very good, is basically, they start off with the rock with like a tiny, tiny piece of the fossil poking out. Like one bone. And they look at the rock and they're like, there may be more bones in there. So they take that one little tiny bone that's stuck in the rock and they cover the exposed parts with plastic. Yeah, plastic, liquid plastic with like a little tiny brush. They just like paint over it with plastic. And then they let the stone, the limestone, soak in acid for about 2 hours, which takes off only like a millimeter or something. A millimeter of the rock, which is a very, very small amount for those of you who don't use meters. But it's very, very, very small. And then they look for more bones, and if there are more bones sticking out, they cover it, and they cover up more of the bone that was sticking out before. And they just continually paint plastic onto the pieces of bones that are poking out, and then dipping it over and over again for months, months I tell you. And eventually, once they get all the bones out, they rearrange them, and there you go, you have yourself a little almost complete skeleton if you're lucky, and I mean, really complete skeletons are basically non-existent for such small creatures, but more or less complete. So that was really cool, in my opinion. I had never seen that technique used on such small bones and fragments of bones before, so that was very interesting. You're probably gonna try to eat us, but I just want to see if you're going to swim towards me. Just in case, Poseidon. Can you be trusted? The answer is probably no. Oh, yeah, the answer's no. The answer's no. Run away. Are you stuck? Are you stuck, Poseidon? I don't trust you to stay stuck, so we're gonna go ahead and turn this down to peaceful. Alright, very good. Alright, so let's go ahead and continue on our project. Oh, you're so friendly when you're on peaceful, Poseidon. But yeah, I had never seen that process, that method used for such small bones before, and I thought it was pretty cool, so we talked about it. Fun times. There's other stuff to talk about as well. Let's see, I wrote down some stuff. Ah, yes, some recent space news, since there's constantly space news coming out. Fun stuff. Mars. You guys know that I love Mars. You guys know that if someone were to come to my door in South Korea, who knows why they would come to South Korea to find me, but if someone did and they were like, Megneous, you can go to Mars. You want to go to Mars? You want to go to Mars today? I'd be like, yes, I would. I'm sorry, guys. I would give you like a 5-minute update video on YouTube, and I'd be like, yep, this is it. This is the end of the channel. Please donate the rest of the proceeds from my channel to charity. And I would probably leave like a list of like 2 or 3 charities that I approve of. And the rest of my proceeds would go to them, after taxes, of course. Actually, I think you can do it before taxes. But anyway, the point is that I love Mars. I want to go to Mars. Like Elon Musk, although I don't have a multi-billion-dollar company, one of my life goals is to go to Mars. Maybe die on Mars if it takes us too long to start a colony. But yeah, so Mars is awesome, and I want to go. So, new information about Mars. I assume that this came about as a result of studying rocks on Mars, studying the amount of oxides in them, like the rust that's basically all over the entire planet. As you know, Mars is very red due to the rust of the iron oxide that covers literally everything, including the air. And I'm assuming from that, they have basically figured out that approximately 4 billion years ago, that's basically in the baby time of the Earth, in case you guys didn't know, 4 billion years ago, the Earth didn't have a solid surface. Indeed, the surface of the Earth was molten, and we were being, like, impacted constantly by giant meteorites. This may have also been the time, I'm not exactly sure of the timeline, when... Oh, this is generally not very interesting at the moment. How do I really need to look up one of those little guides on how to make domes in Minecraft, because that's what we're gonna have to do. I suppose the dome can come up all the way to here. I wonder if it would get in the way of Poseidon. He already seems to be stuck, actually. I'm not really sure. Teeth. I just want to push you so that you don't get stuck on the land, Poseidon. I would feel really bad if you died. That is a lot of splashing sound. Alright, so let's go ahead and get out of here. That will slowly take form as we continue. But yes, so the, about 4 billion years ago, Mars supposedly had an atmosphere with a lot of oxygen. Now, if you don't know anything about Earth's history, what happened with Earth was that we did not have an atmosphere of oxygen. We probably had an atmosphere full of carbon dioxide and all sorts of terrible toxins and poisons and things that were not very good for life outside of the ocean. So life probably emerged or ended up in the ocean, and eventually we ended up getting very large blooms of plankton and algae and, well, not plankton and algae of today, but like cyanobacteria. Yeah, you guys know what cyanobacteria are, right? Cyanobacteria started what is called the Great Oxygenation Event, or something similar to that. Anyway, they filled our entire atmosphere, well, not entire atmosphere, about 18%, I suppose, with oxygen, which made it possible for life to move on to land, because we then had an energy source through breathing that could, you know, ATP and all of that. What, ATP? I know that oxygen is necessary for ATP to work correctly, but anyway, yes. Oxygen is necessary. I am so much more into astronomy than I am into biology. Apologies. Achilles, we need to get you a friend. Do we have another thing of Velociraptor DNA? I think we have one more. I think Achilles is quite sad and lonely. I think we need another Velociraptor. Also, Velociraptors were almost undoubtedly pack hunters. Or I guess we could call them a flock, perhaps, considering how closely related they were to birds. But nonetheless, I think Achilles would be lonely if he weren't a computer simulation. So I want to go check out to see if we have any Velociraptor DNA. But yeah, so how exactly Mars got an oxygen atmosphere is sort of a strange question. A lot of people would like to say, oh yeah, oxygen, that means that Mars had life. And like, yes, I guess suppose that's possible, but the Mars timeline is very different from Earth's timeline. Mars cooled and essentially died. Yes, we do have Velociraptor. Very, very good. Eventually cooled and more or less died. I mean, possibly there's still bacteria on Mars, but its timeline began and ended far before ours, as far as we know. Due to its small size, it cooled very quickly. So all of that being considered, I find it hard to believe that in essentially only 700 million years, which it took much longer than this for the Earth, 700 million years was enough time to not only develop life or for panspermia to occur, and then for the life to evolve into something that creates oxygen as a byproduct, and then for that thing to proliferate well enough to like take up so much space in the oceans of Mars to then produce an oxygen atmosphere. I find that a little bit hard to believe. I suppose it's possible, it could happen, but I'm not willing to bet anything on it personally. So I suppose there could be some other things that could have contributed to that. Maybe some sort of geological process that I'm not aware of. As far as I know, geological processes usually involve sulfur, nitrogen, carbon dioxide. Not exactly things that we want. Well, I mean, we do breathe nitrogen all the time, but not things that would allow for macroscopic life to develop, like on land, for example. And this is going to take forever. Need to go to sleep then. But yes, so Mars with an oxygen-filled atmosphere, and no one really knows why. Of course, I know now probably where lots of oxygen went. First of all, it was probably lost due to solar wind after the Martian atmosphere, Martian magnetic field died when its core cooled, when the magnetic dynamo stopped in its core. But also, a lot of the oxygen was probably stuck into all of that iron oxide you see all over the surface of Mars. So it's a very good reason to think that there's no more oxygen. I mean, there's tons of oxygen on Mars, it's just not in the air. You know, it's in every single piece of dirt you can find, every piece of dust. So there's that. Additionally, I don't know what to do for the rest of this episode. Some sort... I'm gonna go into the Nether, just because I haven't been in the Nether for a while. Ta-da! Very nice. Ah, scary sounds. Yep. But yes, so there's also the Cassini spacecraft, the Cassini space probe, satellite, I guess you could say. if you're not aware, oh, I feel so bad about these Triceratops. If you're not aware of Cassini, Cassini is essentially a probe that we put around Saturn to study Saturn and the Saturn moons. And Cassini is going to take a special little trip around Saturn. I mean, it orbits Saturn constantly, but this time it's special because Saturn is lining up in just the correct way so that the Sun is behind Saturn. The Cassini space probe will be behind Saturn, and also Saturn will line up with the Earth so that Earth will be like a single blue pixel in Saturn's rings, which is pretty amazing and pretty beautiful. It gives us a nice little view of ourselves. I'm not exactly sure why this is popping up in the news so often, because we have pictures of the Earth as a single blue pixel. The famous little blue dot, I think, is the name of that photo. Carl Sagan is famous for giving a speech on that, which actually I wanted to recreate in Kerbal Space Program. This place is just generally not a very happy place to go. I feel like making something. Doop doop. Hello, pick. I guess I can get some glowstone. This is going to take too long. There we go. Ah! But yes, so the little blue dot. We're going to have another amazing shot of Earth with Earth being shown. Ew, I do not like that sound at all. Through Saturn's rings, and that's going to be awesome. Not exactly my cup of tea. I'm not really one for new photos. I like new information, and I like landing things on things. I like putting things into orbit around things. But I mean, you can't really worry too much about that because in the very, very near future, like within a year or two, we're going to have not only New Horizons passing by Pluto. First time we're going to get real photos of Pluto. Things not from the Hubble Space Telescope, at least. But we're also going to have Dawn go to Ceres, the largest asteroid in the asteroid belt. It's actually a dwarf planet. So it's like, essentially Pluto's little brother or sister. Except actually, I'm not sure which one is bigger. Probably Ceres is bigger. I'm just going to take a stab at that. But I'm probably completely wrong. Pluto is incredibly tiny. So I can see Ceres being larger. Am I going in the completely wrong way to go home? Possibly. But anyway, there's, of course, one more piece of news. It's a little bit old news because I didn't really feel like talking about it before, but it is totally amazing. And that is SpaceX. SpaceX with the MCT. Ah, yes. Since I got this glowstone, if you guys have any sort of ideas for things to do with glowstone, you should let me know, because glowstone is pretty cool for decorations and such, but I'm not really sure how I should use it. Maybe use it to light our dinosaur enclosures. But yes, the MCT. The MCT was a rumor, essentially. And there were some documents about the quote-unquote MCT that SpaceX was working on, some of the stats. Essentially, everyone thought it was a really big rocket, and they appeared to be correct, because Elon Musk randomly in a Twitter talking about the IPO. For those of you who don't know, IPO is essentially like when a company goes public and starts selling stock to raise money, and then stockholders then have a say in what the company does, more or less. When he was talking about that, he said, yeah, I'm not going to put SpaceX up for an IPO until the Mars colonial transport is running frequently. Now, he just said that nonchalantly. He wasn't even thinking about anything in particular. It wasn't like a big announcement. It was just a random off-the-cuff thing that he said on Twitter, and that sort of frightens me that, you know, they're indeed actually working on designing a Mars colonial transport, and, you know, not only did they not tell anyone because it was sort of a secret, I have no idea how to... Maybe like this? Yes, alright, very good. So I have 11 things of glowstone now. That's fun. Alright. But yeah, so Elon Musk basically talked about that. He wasn't really concerned about it whatsoever. It wasn't a big thing, it wasn't a big deal. Just the Mars Colonial Transporter has to be running a lot before I'm going to open SpaceX up for an IPO, because he wants to make sure that we become a multiplanetary species. So, we now have confirmation that SpaceX is in the process of thinking about and designing a spacecraft capable of starting colonies on Mars. So, my dreams of going to Mars in approximately, I don't know, maybe 20-ish years, if we're lucky, they can come to fruition. I'm saving up money now, actually. I'm not sure how much it's going to cost, but I'm saving money. Actually, that's probably the primary thing that my YouTube income is going towards. So thank you everyone for helping me get to Mars. I love you all. I don't want to end this episode before we confirm that we have Velociraptor egg in our inventory. Hurry up and develop, you dirty little animal. But yeah, so those of you who enjoy talking about space and you guys watch my channel, if you watch Kerbal Space Program, you're probably all over space stuff anyway. Go ahead and check out Kerbal Space Program if you haven't already. And for those of you who do love space, if you could colonize one planet in our solar system, where would you go, including in orbits around other planets? Personally, I'm going to want to go to Mars, but I could also think very easily that I would enjoy being in a space station, possibly around Jupiter or Saturn, ignoring the fact that, you know, Jupiter has crazy radiation belts that would kill basically anyone immediately, but assuming we have technology to get over that, can you imagine being in a space station and looking out your window and seeing the moons of Jupiter pass over Jupiter? And seeing that every day? That would be amazing. Alright, so we are basically done with today's episode and all of our space news and dinosaur excavation talk. Please let me know below in the comments if you would like to name that pterosaur over there, assuming it's still alive. I'm pretty sure it is. We also have an egg of another Velociraptor, which we are going to be placing here next episode, so think of names for that as well. Thank you so much everyone for watching. My name is Megneous, and I will see you next time.